The New England Patriots were a 20-year dynasty, unheard of in the world of sports, especially football. Sometimes dynasties continue for longer, when certain individuals take the main teachings of that dynasty and spread them elsewhere. In fact, the New England dynasty is an offshoot of the Bill Parcells dynasty in New York, where Belichick and Tom Coughlin formerly served as coordinators. But the New England dynasty has struggled to spread its wings beyond the borders of Massachusetts. All the New England coaches failed or were at best mediocre in spreading the Patriot Way at other organizations. These coaches, which include names like Josh McDaniels, Matt Patricia, Eric Mangini, Brian Flores, and others, have a record of only 219 wins and 306 losses as head coaches of other teams as of November 2023. However, no coach seems to have so much promise but fails so miserably in spreading the Patriot Way as Josh McDaniels. By this point, most of us know how McDaniels' tenure ended in both Denver and most recently in Vegas with the Raiders. However, the point of this podcast is to understand from a business perspective why certain organizations fail. With McDaniels, we can easily point to football reasons for his team's failing, such as his poor draft classes and inept offensive schemes. But from a company perspective, why did McDaniels struggle to implement a corporate culture like the Patriot Way that worked brilliantly with the Patriots, but failed to catch on in two other cities that were desperate to win? So first of all, what is the Patriot Way? There are many definitions of what this company culture entailed over the years. Former player Kevin Falk described it as nothing but winning. Some describe it as the Brady Way, honing in on the quarterback's incredible attention to detail, dedicated focus, and will to win. Others describe it as a Belichick system based on the coach's indelible focus and menacing defensive concepts. Dante Hightower once said that there is no definition. Instead, the Patriot Way can't be assigned to a single individual. Rather, it's more of a feeling, and when you're in the Pats facility, you start to understand exactly what it is. Regardless of how the Patriot Way is defined, we can agree that it is a form of company culture, which is becoming one of the paramount factors in whether a company succeeds. A 2022 Forbes article by Paula Morgan notes that company culture is a set of beliefs and attitudes about the way things are done at the workplace. She describes company culture as a human factor that affects how work gets done and interactions between people occur. Workers are becoming more and more focused on company culture. 91% of managers consider alignment with company culture as essential to hiring a candidate. 35% of workers say they wouldn't stay at a company whose values don't align with their own. And companies with a strong culture have engagement levels that are 72% higher than those that don't. However we want to define company culture, we can agree that it's an essential component to business and team success. When it comes to Josh McDaniels, there's several reasons why he failed to implement a winning Patriot Way beyond his football decisions. When McDaniels joined the Raiders, reporters asked him why he believed he would succeed this time, over 10 years after his original tenure and failure with the Broncos. He indicated that he had learned a lot since his first opportunity when he was only 31 years old. However, as you examine his time at the Broncos and Raiders, McDaniels' actions look startlingly similar in both cases. Sometime after joining the Broncos in 2009, Josh McDaniels sought to trade Jay Cutler, who at the time was considered a top quarterback prospect. In 2008, Cutler threw for over 4,000 yards with 25 touchdowns. A 2009 ESPN article by Chris Mortensen noted that Cutler and McDaniels failed to see eye to eye, with Cutler believing that McDaniels secretly wanted to bring in his own guy, at the time Matt Castle, who he'd coached to some success in New England. Cutler indicated he couldn't trust McDaniels, and for these or other reasons, Cutler was eventually shipped off to Chicago for Kyle Orton. In Vegas, McDaniels also alienated existing leadership with a seemingly veiled desire to bring in his own guy. McDaniels stuck with Derek Carr, the Raiders' incumbent quarterback, for just one season before dumping him with no clear plan. In this case, he did replace Carr with his quote-unquote own guy in the form of Jimmy Garoppolo, who performed terribly before being benched by interim coach Antonio Pierce. We can debate how good Carr and Cutler actually are, but the fact is, they were existing leaders within their franchise, and McDaniels alienated and replaced both in ugly breakups with no clear transition plan. While companies replace managers all the time, strong cultures respect existing leaders and manage transition and change smoothly. In the case of McDaniels, he seemingly replaced team leaders with little respect and in favor of his own people. Following the firing of McDaniels, it's no secret that the Raider players partied like rock stars. Videos and pictures of the locker room emerged showing the players smoking cigars and having a great time with interim coach Antonio Pierce. Reports indicated that players found it difficult to connect with McDaniels and that he communicated in ways that simply rubbed people the wrong way. Multiple stories emerged indicating that McDaniels had Pierce try and motivate the team, which Pierce did by recalling his own time with the 2007 Giants, only to have McDaniels allegedly shut Pierce down for negatively referencing his beloved Patriots. Other players described McDaniels as distant and hurt. While we can't always trust the veracity of every statement made, the fact remains that McDaniels had trouble connecting to his players, and a strong corporate culture relies on leaders being able to connect with employees and inspire them. Perhaps most important of all, McDaniels failed because he couldn't reconcile the Patriot Way with the local cultures of the teams he was actually coaching. While it's an exciting prospect to think about recreating Patriot culture elsewhere, the fact remains that each city and each team is different and has its own culture and foundation. It's certainly possible to bring the tenets of a successful culture with you to another business or team, but it's a mistake to think you can simply revamp a culture to exactly match that prior business or team. An interesting article by Nate Jackson notes that McDaniels was famous for trying to utilize motivational slogans with his new teams, similar to those used by Belichick with the Patriots. However, players with the Broncos and Raiders simply didn't buy into this tactic, though it may have worked in New England. In the end, McDaniels and other Patriots coaches were experts at drawing up plays, but they couldn't make you care about executing the play. Just like in the business world, a corporate culture is only successful when leaders know how to communicate and connect with their people, support managers, and empower employees. It's obvious that Josh McDaniels never learned these lessons, even with multiple chances.